Well, it's one entrepreneur after another, and that means this is Radio Entrepreneurs. My name is Jeffrey Davis, and want to thank all our listeners for tuning in. We're having a great time. It's in the weeds, and that means we're always talking about. You said I can't say marijuana anymore, right?
No,
Cannabis.
It have to be cannabis.
Cannabis.
I got myself in trouble by saying marijuana.
Oh boy! It's a new world out there, and
You can still say joint though, or a bone. I mean, you really.
and my co-pilot, who you're listening to, is
We're
the one,
flying
the
high.
only Walter Sullivan of the law offices of Walter J. Sullivan Jr. Never forget the junior. Okay, and our next guest is Sean Lamontagne, Director of Business Development at Nadeau Corporation. How do you like that?
Sean, do you like the little end he put to your name?
Yeah,
I like that.
He's a little French.
Yeah, put a little twist on it. It's nice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a nice twist. So why don't you tell us about Nadeau Corporation before I get to say your name a few more times?
Sure, yeah.
He's
So-
getting into saying your name.
Yeah.
Lamontagne.
So Nadeau Corporation, we're a commercial construction company out of Attleboro. Been going since 1984. I've been with them for about 7 years. I do a lot of industrial manufacturing, a lot of healthcare. That's sort of what spun us off into the cannabis facilities. And again, my role is basically helping develop the private sector projects. And again, we offer general contracting, construction management, design, build, and planning and pre-con
No,
services.
it's a successful business. Healthcare. I mean, everything.
Walter, I don't think you're going to bring on an unsuccessful business on the show, are you?
we never do that. But I mean,
No.
it's just more in the sense of here's this major construction company, all of a sudden deciding to get into the cannabis business. How did that conversation go?
It went well, actually. Our president, Ernie Nadeau, was quite receptive to it. The high tech manufacturing and the healthcare experience that we had sort of was a nice transition into it, at least for the cultivation facilities. So he was quite receptive, and we sort of identified it coming into the state and pursued it.
I mean, and it is similar to healthcare. I mean, the sophistication that goes into cultivation. What have you seen with your clients in the sense of education?
Education-wise, it varies. A lot of them, if they have a grow consultant on board that has done this before, they're pretty well versed in it, and they know some of the pitfalls to avoid and things like that. Other people that are just sort of getting into it with a little bit of a nest egg, we sort of have to take on a role of educator and sort of tell them about different things that they might not be thinking about, security line items and things like that sometimes fall through the cracks for people that don't really know or haven't developed these facilities before.
And what are the type of pitfalls you've seen from people coming into the business?
Well, I mean, the first step is to develop a line-by-line budget, and a lot of times they don't even account for things like security, which is a huge line item, and it's a huge thing to pass with the CCC. So we have to sort of let them know that you need a security consultant, or you need somebody to sort of make sure that you're meeting the requirements of the state. And there's quite a nice little price tag attached to these cameras and intrusion systems and things like that.
One part of the regulations talks about developing an energy efficient building. How have you ended up dealing with the issue of helping the clients through developing a building that can truly reduce costs?
Yeah, I mean, we've explored LEDs, things like that, various rebates with the town and the utility companies and things like that. So a lot of that does fall on our electrical engineers that we team with. They sort of have the ongoing relationships with utility companies, and they know the various rebates and different ways you can sort of be more energy efficient.
And what have you seen? So you do cultivation processing. Are you doing retail spaces as well?
We are, yeah. We're seeing a lot of those pop up, primarily with the recreational side of things. A lot more retail versus the cultivation facilities, mainly just because of the capital investment that's required for the cultivation is so substantial that
As someone looking to As someone looking to get into this business, what would you advise? Meaning not the cultivation business, looking for space, looking for buildings, and so forth, and looking at the construction side.
I would say understand that it's all a function of supply and demand, whether that's available space, available land, availability of subcontractors to provide competitive pricing. It's all a function of the market. So you might want to explore different parts of the state for cultivation that are a little bit, off the beaten path, but maybe then you can ship it into the city for your storefront.
I never thought about the competitive market even within the state. If you build in Boston, what it might cost versus building out.
Oh,
Is
absolutely.
Is it a big difference?
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned energy efficiency. I mean, price per kilowatt out in Western Mass is a little bit less. So it might cost a little bit less to operate in Chicopee as it would in Canton, you know?
Jeffrey, that works for all the property you have that could be available for cannabis.
Sounds good to me. Are you my fairy godfather, Junior?
I'm just working on growing stuff here, and we got a construction guy that's going to help you build one.
Absolutely.
Sounds good to me. Can you give us a little bit, Sean, of your history? How'd you get into this business?
My specific history?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my background's marketing. I went to UMass Dartmouth. I left there in 2009. Went to a car dealership and made some phone calls, tried to get you guys to come in to test drive cars. Then I went to a radio station, actually, in Fall River, WSAR AM Talk Radio. Did marketing for them. And then I found Nadeau Corporation. They were having a project manager do basically their business development, go to Chamber of Commerce events, things like that. It wasn't really working out, so... the economy was down, and Ernie Nadeau decided to make the investment in business development and make a marketing plan and put a budget in place, and that's when we teamed up 7 years ago. So been there ever since.
Now, that's interesting, is that you see more companies don't understand that someone like you is very important to bring in a business development person. Just because you grow the most buildings, build the most buildings and do a good job, if no one knows.
Well, I think also too, it's identifying the fact that it's a full-time job, and not just sort of do it on the weekends or do it after hours. It's sort of a full-time gig.
And I think that's a big issue, is that you see people getting into this business saying, we can build. Well, if you've never done it before, and it's nice having a track record. We've built buildings that are similar. Healthcare buildings have to be built in such a way to ensure that they're safe. White rooms and so forth, everything you have to do.
Absolutely.
And that applies to cultivations to ensure there's no cross-contamination and so forth.
Yeah, a lot of parallels, absolutely.
We've been speaking with Sean Lamontagne, Director of Business Development, Nadeau Corporation, with the one, the only super co-pilot, Walter J. Sullivan, Jr. Thank you, Walter.
It was a good time, man.
Yeah, good time. Do you still see this industry booming in the next couple of years, or do you see it getting a little bit flatter?
I still see it booming, maybe in different avenues. I know they're working on developing the public consumption cafes, for example. So maybe that's a new spin-off that maybe we'll start building some storefront cafes, outdoor consumption, concert areas, things like that. Things that aren't traditional, just grow, manufacture, retail. So we've already seen the manufacturing side that you don't have to be part of the vertical integration now. So you can just have a facility just for taking in the raw product, making whatever it is, cakes, pies, candies, and then shipping it wholesale to the retail side of things. So we're seeing more specialized facilities. I think that might be the trend in the next few years.
I think you see people buying extracts and doing manufacturing. What size facilities have you built for cultivation?
They range. The first one, the biggest one, was 63,000 square feet for Netta in Franklin. And we've looked at some that are more of the craft side of things.
No, you added on to Netta. They put a mezzanine in.
They did a second phase that we were not part of. We did the original build. Yep.
I felt like I was walking into a pharmaceutical business.
Yeah.
The way it was set up.
Yeah, and that's an example of the sort of the high end of the spectrum. And now that they're allowing sort of the craft side of things, we're seeing people want to open a 5,000 square foot sort of craft facility, grassroots type thing. A little more of a shoestring budget for that sort of thing, and maybe not so much the Netta side. But yeah, so it's nice the way the state's allowing different people to enter the market in different capacities.
Sean, if somebody's looking for you and would like to talk to you at the Nadeau Corporation, how would they find you?
Yeah, probably just our website, nadeaucorp.com, NADEAUCORP.com.
Great. And your email, just in case?
It is SL, my initials,
Yeah.
at nadeaucorp.com.
That's pretty easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you being on the show. Hope you come back again.
Absolutely.
And thank you also, Walter J. Sullivan, Jr.
Not confused with Walter J. Sullivan, Sr.
Definitely not. Don't know him. We'll be right back after these messages.